Kiepsha, whose Spanish name was Lola, died in Tierra del Fuego at the end of winter, 1966. With her, all direct testimony of a millenary culture disappeared, that of a Stone Age hunting culture. Although better known as Ona, the true name of this people is Selk'nam. Kiepsha was born in a tent made of guanaco skin. She was over 90 years old when she died. She was the eldest of the last survivors of the Selk'nam. In her youth, she dressed in guanaco furs and lived with her family, camping on the beaches, by the lakes, in the woods, and participating in the ceremonies of her group. In the last years of her life, when I knew her, Kiepsha still identified with her people and still preferred to speak her own language, though she was fluent in Spanish. She was a person of exceptional richness, passionate, sensitive, and possessed a profound knowledge of the mysticism and mythology of her culture. She was a shaman, the last Selk'nam shaman. She inherited supernatural power from a maternal uncle whose spirit came to her in a dream. She practiced for years to acquire the concentration necessary to penetrate the world beyond. Near the end of her life, when we were together, she seemed truly happy as she sang or talked about her old way of life, though she knew it had ceased to exist forever. The way of life of the Selk'nam, the most ancient of mankind, was a Stone Age hunting culture. During tens of thousands of years, until the invention of agriculture, humanity lived scattered throughout the world in small groups which depended on hunting, gathering, and fishing. Due to diverse circumstances, some groups never adopted agriculture. They remained true to the original tradition, even to quite recent times in isolated parts of the globe. This was the case of the Selk'nam, whose few descendants live on the Isla Grande, Tierra del Fuego, Argentine. Luis Garibaldi Honte is quite well off. He held a very responsible job in the construction of the first road that crossed the Cordillera of Tierra del Fuego. Retired from the police force, he now raises sheep.
Hasta la edad de 8 o 9 años estuve en el clan. Yo me sentía más feliz en aquel tiempo con un quillango sobre el cuero y no con vestido de lana como estoy hoy. Entonces yo vivía con
When he was a child, Luis Garibaldi lived in the clan. He says he felt much better then, with a guanaco hide over his skin, than dressed in wool as he lives today. He lived with his grandmother, who would make the rounds with her relatives, going around the northern part of the island, and then returning again to Haberton, the farm of Bridges, the Protestant missionary. That's where he grew up, mostly, in that farm. There, he says, I took to the system of the Europeans, civilizing myself. He laughs when recalling he thought he would be civilized. When he was 12 or 13 years old, he started to work. Later, when he was a man, he decided to learn to read and write. He had a need to learn.
Angela Loy was the last person, both of whose parents were Indian. Thanks especially to her, I was able to continue my study of the Selk'nam culture after Kiepsha died.
No sé mi edad ni una cosa. El año no está escrito, tiene que pedir mi bautismo.
Angela Loy doesn't know her age. Her baptism certificate doesn't say in what year she was born. Luis Garibaldi says Angela was Oliche, pretty, with a nice figure and a pleasant face. She was also a great walker. When she married a cousin of his, she went to the lake named Buen Suceso and roamed all over the island. Angela lived with Garibaldi's cousin almost 12 years. When they were young, they went together everywhere. He gave her a house and told her to live there until she died. That's why she doesn't worry now.
Angela died in May 1974 in Rio Grande, Tierra del Fuego. Francisco Minquiol was a horse trainer. At the age of 28, he had an accident while working, as a result of which he became paralyzed in both legs.
Angela remembers that Pancho was taming horses on a farm around Rio Gallegos when he became crippled. One of the wild horses threw him. It was a bad fall, and he remained crippled forever. This was a long time ago. Doctors couldn't do anything for him, so he came back because he wanted to die in Tierra del Fuego. He said, "I want to die in my country." He didn't want to die far away. He didn't have any family, no one. The same as Angela, she has no one.
Francisco died at the end of 1970 in the regional hospital of Rio Grande.
Federico recalls how he and Pancho tamed horses for 3 seasons together. 30 horses, real wild horses.
Federico Icilaini has worked all of his life on the sheep farms of the island. He resembles his father, a Norwegian, more than his mother, a Selk'nam. Another descendant of the Selk'nam, Alfredo Rubatini, also lived in Rio Grande.
Sí, obligado, tengo que estar en Rio Grande. Por razones de salud tengo que estar acá. Estoy en un tratamiento largo y no, esto no.
Rupatini thinks he doesn't have any choice. He has to live in Rio Grande because of his health. He is undergoing a long medical treatment, but he feels it's no life here. In summer, as in winter, it's very tiring. In winter, because of the intense cold, it's not like living in the forest, without noises. He was born in forest country and grew up in forest country. But he likes the sea here, and he thinks the rivers are marvelous.
Alfredo died in 1973 of tuberculosis in Ushuaia, Tierra del Fuego. Enriqueta Barrera de Santin, whose father was a Spaniard and whose mother was Selk'nam, lives in Ushuaia. She is an artist and the mother of many children.
Los animales me gustan. Toda la naturaleza me gusta.
Enriqueta likes all animals. She likes everything in nature. She sits for hours watching animals, and those that she likes, she carves. She makes guanacos, penguins, the cormorant, the biguá. She likes them all.
Other women of Indian descent, Rafaela Gonzalez and Rosario Imperial, live on the island. Other men, Segundo Arteaga and Alejandro Cortez, are workers on sheep farms. This is the last generation of the Selk'nam, of a people and culture destroyed as a consequence of the expansion of Western civilization. When Angela was born at the beginning of the century, the whites had already annihilated the Indian culture. But Angela grew up among her people and lived for years with old Indian women in a mission near Rio Grande. I have the impression that she felt like a Selk'nam, though it was no longer possible to be a Selk'nam. Thanks to the archaeologist, we know that the Isla Grande was inhabited by human beings some 9,000 years ago, but we don't know when the Selk'nam arrived to the island. They were a branch of the ancient Tehuelches, inhabitants of Patagonia, southern Argentina. According